3, 2, 1, and welcome back to Chasin the Racin.
Dan here from a very sunny Donington Park, and sitting next to me is the delicious, the mysterious Joe Akroyd. How the devil are we, son?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Oh, grand, absolutely grand. Well, I think...
Like I say, we're baking a bit here, aren't we? I don't know how long we're going to last here before we have to crack a window or something.
Mate, we're going to have to pull the walls down. It just gets that hot in here. Me and Chrissy did an episode with Josh Brooks in here, and they were literally feeding us beer from the... Well, same way. Chrissy didn't drink a drop, did he? So it was only me drinking the beer, so I was just getting more and more pissed as the show went on.
We'll know it's hot when our guest's light blue starts to go dark blue on his t-shirt.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, fantastic.
Hey, listen, don't worry about me. Hotter the better.
Hotter the better. I love it. And this is a perfect time to introduce our guest, straight from Luton, ex-bricklayer, now British champion, TT winner, Northwest winner. I'm looking at him until he blinks because there's so many names we can give this guy. And also, and mainly, the competition of the TT podcast, Steve Plater. How are we, sir?
Thank you very much. I thought you were going to both give me a round of applause then.
We can do
No.
that.
No. Don't.
We're not playing into that.
Do not lower yourself to that standard, Joe. You know what I mean? We're only here just to get the tips. You know what I mean? That sounds a bit weird already, doesn't it?
Well, as well, we need to, before we get stuck into this with Steve, we need to thank WSC Performance, which are a small family-run business of motorcycle parts distribution. They're sponsoring this pod for us.
Fantastic, mate. Oh, go on. I tell you what. Now you're on a roll. I feel like go for the rest of them. So if you get Steve just to dip his head out of the way.
What does it stand for?
Oh, you sellout! Hold on, you sellout! I tell you what. Thank God they supply Chasin the Racin. They're good friends with Deco, who's Grace's friend. So we have dodged a bullet 100% on that side. So support Grace. Buy from WSC
Performance.
I'm getting there, mate. But more importantly, I must say thank you to the patrons, OMG Racing, and for our YouTube element, you'll probably see behind Steve's head in his Cheshire Molden top is OMG Racing have thrown up in the corner here, which is fantastic. We've got JCT, Truck and Trailer Hire, who sponsor Lee Johnson, also the podcast, and Bennetts Bike Insurance, which is absolutely brilliant. But I'll tell you what, let's talk about this a little bit, Joe. I'm leaning on you here to explain this. There's 77 prints of that.
Yeah, so OMG are doing 77 prints, and they're going to do a different print for each round. So it's all limited edition prints. So the one we've got there is obviously Ryan and Kyle. It's trick as that.
That is
like
trick.
Cartoony.
Have you seen Steve's hands writing notes on the list?
Yeah,
BMW will be doing this next. You watch, I'm telling you.
I don't know. I can't tell if he's getting angry inside. And they've got the merchandise available as well, which is available at all the rounds. So
fantastic. Loving it. So I'll tell you what. Last time you were on the show was with me and Chrissy.
Thanks, Alan. RNG. OMG. OMG. Thanks, Alan Gardner. It's very kind of you. But now we're going on to royalty. Carry on.
Back to BMW. The Yamahas have to take a seat for this one, I'm telling you.
He's a good guy.
I tell you what, we were flicking through the archives there. Episode 50, mate.
50.
Me and Chrissy interviewed you. Like, I remember it now. We're sitting in his living room at home. We had you on Skype, and I think you just got fresh out the shower. Like, I've never seen a man get dressed more quickly in my life. Literally soaking wet. I'm like, Steve, you've gone to a run. You've been to a I don't know where you've been. You've been somewhere. You got a guilty face on you. It was good times, man. Good times.
Hey, mate. It feels like yesterday.
That's scary, isn't it? It is scary.
Flashes by.
But the good thing about that episode, if you want to click back and go awkwardly through all that, which is brilliant, we went through your career in depth, but this is the exciting moment. We've kind of nicked you as a job that you're already doing is the co-host element. You know, we're going to pinch you. We're going to go back to, obviously, Alton Park. We're going to go back and, I tell you what, I'm going to go and ask him a question straight away. How did it go about getting involved in that TT podcast?
Well, obviously, I've been involved in the TT from the TV side for production for quite a few years now. I don't know how long, probably 13, 14 years, somewhere there since I stopped racing the roads, and which is great, you know, and I really enjoy it. It's nice, you know, and you kind of just relax and do your own thing. And then the podcast situation came up and they said, well, would you be interested? Yeah, of course I would. And working with Chris Pritchard, cracking lad, good guy, knows his stuff. Probably a better memory than me, but he's a good presenter, and we just clicked, you know, bounced off each other, and it worked really well. So it's been really good.
Do you find doing when you said there, you've obviously been doing the TV job since you packed in, how hard is that to go there?
It's really tough to begin with, you know, because to start with, then it was North One TV, and they're a huge outfit. They do MotoGP now. They do things like the Gadget Show. So and I've got some flipping old bricklayer there that's trying to learn the trade very quickly. And, you know, obviously I know what I'm talking about because I'm passionate about a TT, as we all are. And I've raced the place, so you know your stuff, but it's really hard, and you do feel out of place a little bit. But the biggest thing you need to do is relax and just be yourself. That's the biggest part of it. It really is. You know, you have to be careful on various things you talk about and you say, of course, especially now it's live. But realistically,
dropping the F-bomb on live TV.
Oh, flipping, you know,
it's where that compulsion of flipping comes from. Every episode is flipping something. It's like,
it could be so easy to at times, but it's you kind of. And my wife can't believe it. I don't swear.
Did you find it hard doing it, not just from that standpoint, but the not riding, being the spectator?
No, not in the slightest.
Because
I
you
get
were
that
ready
question
to stop.
so many times. No, I didn't. I started racing very late in life, you know, as we mentioned on the podcast last time. But for me, it was already in my mind to stop racing the roads.
Right.
Pretty much 2009 I won everything that I competed at. And for 10, I wanted to stop the roads, and I very nearly signed for Relentless just to do BSB only. But the deal didn't fall apart, but they weren't ready to commit. Relentless weren't ready to commit. You know, I've been speaking to Philip Neal all winter. Philip wanted to do the deal, I wanted to do the deal, but the money wasn't in the pot at the time. So I was on a time scale with Honda to re-sign to do the roads and British Superstock. So I didn't let that slip, so I signed for HM Plant Honda again. Yeah.
So let's go back to remind our listeners what was that definitive moment for you to stop roads?
My career started very late, as everybody knows, and I think realistically I was always in quite a rush to. First of all, my target was to win at everything.
Yeah.
Which is not easy, and I never even realised how competitive I was as a person. Plus, you know, there's obviously a little bit of skill there, and I kind of very quickly come through the ranks. Was winning the British Championships. I wanted to win, obviously, a British Championship. I wanted to ride superbikes, you know, and I very quickly went into racing the roads, which was the mass start, which was Northwest 200 in Macau. TT wasn't on my radar, but then as time went on, I thought, you know what, that'd be another good one to win, obviously, because it's so iconic.
The confidence you got to have to go.
World Endurance was another one because it's a massive discipline. I rode for all the factories, apart from Suzuki, actually. At World Endurance, I rode for Kawasaki France for 10 years, Yamaha France, Yamaha Austria. Had some great wins, great times, finished second in the championship twice, never won it. But hey, that's World Endurance to a certain degree. It's not easy because there are so many negative things that can go wrong, obviously, with it being 24 and 8-hour races and so on. But some fabulous experiences, some great teammates, world-class teammates, some fabulous venues, Suzuka and so on. You know, some incredible times and some tough times, really, really tough times. But, you know, I was very good at digging deep and still being fast on anything at any time in any race. So it kind of worked in my favour. But to answer your question about stopping, I wasn't burnt out with it. Obviously, there's lots of pressures within racing. It can be political. You do get burnt out with that, I believe, a little bit from that side of it.
I remember in an interview, this is a while ago, I remember you saying you're actually one of the only riders never to retire. You actually never announced your retirement, and you actually said it was more the politics that you got.
It wasn't just politics, but you see so many riders that retire and then within 6 months they're back riding because they can't, in my opinion, they need the ego to continue as well, as we all do. And I'm not criticising people, but I think because off of that, I think I get my ego from being on the TV and still being in the public eye. Whereas I think a lot of people, obviously, there's a lot of the guys that miss winning, which is all you do it for.
Yeah.
They miss that ego trip, but it's that pat on the back. It's that people watching, that people recognising, people knowing you. That's the ego trip massively, and you're very proud of that. You're proud of yourself, and you love it. You know, I'm lucky because I still get recognised, and you know, we just come back from Northwest 200, and I've got so many fans from over there that are massive pure road racing fans that used to love me when I was racing. So it's nice because you get to catch up and flipping. You know, it's great.
Yeah.
But that's the ego trip. And I think that's what a lot of guys miss. So to answer your question, I never announced a retirement in case I couldn't stop. But I quickly realised and quickly managed to flick that switch, and I'm not competitive in the slightest. Anything I do now.
Really?
I can go on a track.
It's all out
I can go on a track day. Everybody wants to race you on a track day. I can go on a track day, and I know I can beat them anyway. It's pointless. It's just, it's no big deal. I don't mean that to sound smart in the slightest, but I should be able to beat people on track days. But I am, and I can't explain it. I'm just very lucky. I flick that switch, and I don't get competitive with anything. I play golf now. I'm not very good, but I never get the ump because I'm not competitive. I do lots of trials riding on pre-65 stuff. I never get the ump because I'm not good enough and I'm not competitive. So who cares? It's just me having a good time.
There must have been a definitive moment that actually go click.
It's weird because if you'd have got me away on track, I'd have run you both over and flipping flattened you.
I
don't mean that sounds smart, but that was the mentality.
Did the competitive drive stop before you stopped? Was that one of the?
As soon as I stopped, really. But obviously I had some injuries as well. Yeah. Which you come back from, and I'm still getting back on the podium at British Championship and stuff. But it was more the case of I've been there, done that, I've won that. I've been there, done that, I've won that. I've been there, done that, I've won that. What's the target now? What is it to do? And my agent and so on, there was nothing else really to go at as such, realistically. And I thought, and the thought of not going to the next race without being able to win was ridiculous. So why bother? Yeah, it's weird, isn't it, Al?
It's a really rare thing as well, isn't it? Because I won my last TT. I won my last 5 Northwest. I won my last British Championship. That'll do nicely, thank you. Happy to walk away at the top.
Yeah, that's only for my own personal ego. I'm talking about ego again. Sorry, but you know what I mean. It's just that's your own personal thing, rather than dwindling down the results and then stopping. I still love riding, and I'm still very fortunate. I probably do 20,000 miles a year on bikes, testing work for manufacturers and so on, and road riding with mates and various things. So I do an awful lot of riding. Which is nice and I love it, but it's just a case of. But there's the only competitive event I go to now is Goodwood Revival. But anybody I ride for, I said, look, I'm going to ride fast, but I'm not going to be risking anything, and we'll have a good time. The wife comes along, we go to the ball and so on. It's fabulous, nice weekend, and that's it. Yeah.
Fair play to you.
Do you find it difficult in the position? Because we've got multiple jobs. You work at the Northwest, you're working with Cheshire Mouldens, you're running the F900 Championship, Norton. Bloody hell,
You're one of them blokes that
can't say no.
I've never been so busy since I retired. You're one of them now, aren't you?
It's mental.
I didn't have time for work.
Hey, well, you wonder how I used to fit things in when you was racing, because now it's just crackers, and I'm lucky. Because the phone's always ringing, there's always new things coming along, and I host a lot of shows as well and various different bits and bobs. And basically, I'm in a very fortunate position. I only do things that I enjoy now. There's frustrations with any line of work at some point, but in general, I only do things that or work at things that I enjoy.
What is your official title at Tas?
Team manager.
You are the team manager.
Is that a self-given title, Steve, or is that actually on paper?
No, Philip Neal will confirm. It's lovely actually. We've just been to the Northwest and talking about Tas. It's mega team. It's 25 years of Tas Racing this year.
I was going to say they've been around a long time.
Been winning for a long time. Still winning now with Davey. Northwest and here at Superstock, and Rory's been going really well. Obviously this weekend not quite so good, but. In a fortunate position to be able to join a team like that, change things around a little bit.
Philip decided to take a bit of a step back.
Well, Philip's been really good because, that was my team. I would be very apprehensive as somebody new coming in and giving them the reins to change things a bit. But, we talk about everything. Philip's very philosophical and, he likes things to be right, obviously. But he's good and he listens to opinions and lets you do pretty much not everything, because I always consult him, but he lets you get on with the job. And
you're not getting micromanaged, are you?
No, which is fabulous.
When you're trying to do your
Philip's
job.
very busy. He's got a family life. His son's a very good cyclist, so that's going on. So he's away cycling a lot with his lad, and Hector Neal, his father's still around, and
absolute legend.
How's he doing?
He was at the Northwest in hospitality. He's great. I managed to catch up with him and spot him. Good bloke, Hector. He's doing all right.
That's good.
Same as my father. He's high mileage, but he's still around and doing a great job. And we had a good catch up, and he's all right. But for Hector to be watching Davey winning races, obviously around the Northwest 200 is fabulous after 25 years.
I'll tell you what, it's a perfect opportunity. I actually want to go back a little bit. Now, you're talking about mindset, and you're talking about actually biting the screen as such, can you explain that, like, on audio, what that meant? You put your thumb under your chin, that's, hold on, IB for flight coming in, hold on.
Bye, look where you could have been.
That's it. We'd rather be here, Steve, there you are. So, like, that mentality element, it's a...
Having the gun to your head.
I always find it really difficult because you need to speak to other people about how I was as a rider, because I never really, I've never been one for talking about myself, and obviously I achieved a lot of things, but I always thought I was quite a smooth, easygoing fella and rider.
But you did say the words, "We'd run over you to get to the start line."
Your reputation, because I remember, like, my early memory.
I don't know what my reputation is.
No, but it was you racing that Honda in the SP2 in BSB. That's like when I remember you.
2003.
Kicking the fucking doors in, because that was when I started to, like, think, I want to do this, but I was only 13, and I
was 16.
What are you laughing at?
But to all of us, you came across as the chilled out, approachable, normal bloke. Yeah.
Yeah, listen, I get on with everybody, and life's too short, isn't it? But it's just a case of flipping, there's a bit of pressure there, because Honda had just come back from World Championship. Colin Edwards had won on the bike the year before on Michelin's at World Championship and done a fabulous job, and so on. And I had the World Champions bike in a BSB on Dunlops, and and it took me a little time, I think, to get to terms with the V-twin and the bike on Dunlops and so on. Loved it to bits. It took me kind of probably half the season to start winning, really. But once we started winning, was on it, Yeah, championship had gone by then, but it was great, yeah.
How do you see it now when you're working with people like Rory and Davey? Do you revert back to...
Do you find it easy to tell them to push the limits?
No, that's not my job, really. My job is to... all riders are different, because I've worked with various riders over the years, with Andrew Irwin quite closely, with... who else? Buchan, Glenn Irwin, who else?
They'll all be listening to this now going, come on, Steve.
But you try and pass over your experience, and it's like it's a piece of cake when everything's going right and you're winning. Yeah. It's a piece of cake. But the most important thing is to analyse that, because when it's crap next weekend, you need to know why that was so easy last week. It really is. Really, really is.
Because, like, when you compare, okay, let's name some names here. Let's talk about last year. Tas Racing were the stock cars.
Ryan Vickers in his early days when he was with Lee Hardy on the Kawasaki.
Right.
And it wasn't a good time for Ryan. He wasn't gelled and didn't have the right people around him and stuff, so it was really difficult for him. But you knew he had talent.
Can you spot that easily?
Yeah, he obviously had talent, but he didn't have all the ingredients to show it off as such, and he's in a really good place now, obviously. He's got a great team, OMG, with the bike he's riding, plus he's got, and this is the key part in my opinion, he's got the great, who's he with him? Roger Marshall. He's so good. So good working with riders. He worked with me at TT in 09. Such a lovely
Do you see yourself almost the next generation of what Roger's doing with them?
No, not particularly.
I'm not asking you to blow smoke up your own ass.
My job obviously is to look after the riders at Tas. But Rory, for instance, he's very different to many other riders I've been working with. But that's not my role. My role is to look after the team, the whole team, and to manage the team, and to people manage the team, and to make sure it's a good, easygoing working platform that everybody loves to be at, and so on. Which we've got now, and a happy place to walk into or to roll down pit lane and to ride into, which it is. and that's when you get the best out of your riders. It's like with Toddy, he had a torrid time last year, no confidence and so on, but he's loving life at the moment. He's in a really good place. He's really happy with the people around him, and that shows in his riding.
Well,
As well as his natural talent, obviously.
But that's when you compare, not even like the Davy Todd element. What I'm finding really interesting is comparing Davy against Alistair Seeley, because Tas were the Stock 1000 official team. That's correct, isn't it?
Yes.
In the BMW. So,
yep.
But when you look at the lap times, you had Joe Talbot involved, you had Dan Linfoot in that championship, you had Richard Kerr. The field was in depth on that side of things.
Strong depth, yeah.
Strong depth. But then you've got Davy. But the thing that's proven is Davy's under the lap record even in testing. What has BMW opened up a can of worms somewhere, or what? No, in your opinion, is it a case of, is there something being dragged in by BMW, or is it solely
you just got
environment?
your rider in a happy place now?
And the bike's the same as it was last year, and obviously, as you're probably well aware, Davey rode for us at the end of last year on the Superbike.
He did, yeah.
For the last 3 rounds. Wasn't really in a good place at the time, was lacking confidence, which showed in his riding a little bit, and he did a decent job, coming in at the last minute. He hadn't ridden all year. So it was a tough call for him. So over the winter, for various reasons, we decided to, because the original plan he thought was for him to ride the Superbike this year as well. So and then we decided, you know what, let's put him on the Stocker for a year. BMW want to win the Superstock Championship, obviously, so he's employed to do that. But obviously then things are put into place to get the best crew around him, to look after him, to build his confidence, not just for the National Superstock Championship, but also for the Northwest 100 and TT and Macau at the end of the year. Because, in my mind, as I spoke with Davey, we knew he'd be fast on the Superstock. He's won the championship before. We know the bike's good, very good, so that's not a problem. We know we've got some of the best guys around him. You need a little bit of luck with any result, but Davey's very fast on everything he rides. He went to Navarra, and rode in Supersport, and was well on the pace there. He's just been to the Northwest 200, and he's on the pipe there, on the pace, on both bikes, Superstock and the Superbike. He won both the Superstock races. Both Superstock races. Doing a great job, and obviously we're going to run straight into the TT where he's going to be fast for sure. He's happy with the Superbike. He's really happy with the Superstock. He's happy with the Supersport. He's had a blast out on his Super Twin. He's kind of quite happy with that, even though it's not priority. So he's in a good place, a very good place, and you just got to keep that momentum going. Hope he doesn't get injured here, to keep rolling forward for the TT.
I was about to say, surely, the thing is, that's it. For your heart will be in your mouth watching that race, won't it? Because at the end of the day, it's this timetable is freakishly tight.
It's tight, and he's been, going back to what you said, he's been under the lap record on the Stocker everywhere. He's lap record pace on the Superbike and the Superstock at the Northwest. And I said to him, sort of after the first test, I expect him to be on the podium at the Northwest. I knew he would be. Which is not easy, obviously, and also I expect him to go to the next level at the TT. There's no pressure on him, the results, whatever comes. But it's our job to get him in a good place and a very confident one, and get him really happy on what he's riding, because then that will show in his results anyway and his lap times.
You can see the way he's carrying himself at the minute. He's just he's confident, but he's not.
It's a feel good factor, and he feels like he isn't pushing. It feels like he's not pushing really hard, but the lap times are there.
Yeah,
and that's down to his crew as well, obviously.
I'll be open about this. There was never ever a question of the lad's skill set on a bike, far from it. But I was genuinely shocked how close he was to Glenn, because with Seeley not being yes, he got the violin out and said, well, no one's given me a ride. That was that's all right. Seeley's not in it, and at first, from a spectator looking in, obviously a competitor as well, I think, here we go, it's going to be called the Glen West 200 here. You know what I mean? Thinking, he's got on a Ducati, he's on the fastest bike, off he goes. And obviously by the time I pulled in on the race, I got to watch BBC iPlayer back, and I'm like, fair fuck's mind. Because Davey pushed him. Was that a shock to you?
No,
how close
it
was.
It wasn't a shock. I expected him to be up there somewhere, but he's riding really well, and we're pretty much the superbike is on, which is a full superbike engine, but more of a stock chassis with stock electronics. Not stock electron, but BMW electronics, not Motec. So which is naturally what he's feeling week in, week out on his stocker, and that's what he's asked for, and that's what he wants, and that's what his crew have obviously set up for him and thought about and spoken about.
You know how you said he doesn't feel like he's pushing at the minute.
Yeah.
Was that the case in the Northwest?
Yeah.
So there's plenty left in the tank. It's a case of is he gearing his season around?
I'm not saying there's plenty left in the tank, but his mindset and his attitude is he's not overstepping the mark.
Okay.
He's doing that, I wouldn't say with ease, but he's within his own parameters of being dangerous. Yeah, which is still very fast. When you're doing 16s around the Northwest, it's fast.
Yeah.
You don't want to be a pillion in that place.
Has he had any say in putting that crew around him? Or is that you guys have selected?
It's Philip Neal and myself really working together and working through, and there's one or two new guys in the team we've brought in. Some have moved on, but it's just making sure that everybody clicks together and everybody's happy working with each other. It's a big part. It really is. I've been in teams. I've been in different places all around the world, and sometimes you can ride for a team and you know full well. As soon as you roll out of the pit box, they're talking about you, criticising you.
I'm doing a bit of world endurance this year, and I keep banging on about the feeling of importance of chemistry in teams.
Yeah.
Not just between teammates, but within teams. And you can see when teams, everybody knows their job and they're happy to be doing their job and they're happy with you. And like you say, that chemistry you feed off, don't you? And you can feel it straight away. So yeah,
massively,
it's a big thing, isn't it?
It's an atmosphere thing, and you win together and you lose together, obviously. However, you need to have that trust in the person that's next to you, especially on the roads.
Yeah.
Massively. And I'm not just talking about have they tightened this, have they tightened that. Just the mindset that they're experienced enough to know exactly what you're thinking and what you want alongside of it. To be a little bit of a step in front. It really is, yeah.
But for Davey, you guys have assembled that team where you think all of these guys are going to work together and put him in, because that, like I say, that's 90% of the job, isn't it?
Flipping it, yeah.
All the head game, isn't it?
It's about getting the best out of the rider through making them feel good to a certain degree. It's when you've got the feel good factor and obviously everything's working correctly on the bike and you've got a good package, then it's I wouldn't say there's no excuses, but it makes your life a lot easier.
Are you as a manager finding it hard to not get too involved in certain things that you maybe have an opinion on as a rider?
Oh, nice.
Do you see things going on and you think
I ask many questions. For me, it's more about the feedback. If I think at any point that maybe they're not being asked the right questions,
you'll step in
to get that feel out, that expression to a feel. I might ask them a different question. I'll never poke my nose in and be smart with it. I'll ask them a different question to get a different angle, and sometimes a bit more information can help the crew chief.
So you sit in on all the briefings with both lads?
Our crew chiefs are smart guys. They've been around, been there, done it, won it, and so on. So it's they're flipping good guys, but sometimes, especially a frustrated rider, I've been there. I've been one of those frustrated riders. You're blurting stuff out, but you're not making any sense. I can pick that immediately because I've been one of those people that talks a load of crap.
So at that point, would you step in and say, "Boys, just"?
No, I don't step in and say anything. I don't say anything. I'll just ask them a question.
Right.
That's it. Because it's not. I don't mean.
Because I think you're in an incredibly sort of a challenging situation.
You have to be
with that.
very careful not to upset anybody, obviously, because you don't want to be trying to take over a situation. Because these boys I'm working with, I've just said they're on it. They're brilliant.
Yeah, I must take this opportunity to ask, spread some of your knowledge here. It's a case of what was interesting. You comment about you've had experiences yourself when you rolled out the pit garage, and the team are criticising you. Any advice for people who are feeling like that at the moment? How did you conquer that? Because I tell you what, we've all been there as riders, and that's very interesting.
It just made me more determined to dig deep and win. Because in any team environment, in any sport, there's always somebody to blame. So it's a difficult environment to be in when things aren't going right.
Yeah, No,
very different way. Well, that's any sport, not just motorcycle racing.
No, it's like, you know, it's mad because we've all talked about like negative moments in racing, but it's
we've all been there. I've had you know, long times and long spells of having my confidence smashed and making the wrong decisions and going the wrong way and being my own fault as well.
Truthfully, how long's been your longest spell? You know, of that lack of confidence.
Probably a year to 18 months.
Wow.
A long time.
That's some willpower,
because
you know, to push through that.
You're only as good as your last race. Okay, which is massive, which is so true. So when you lose out and then you jump into another ride and you might crash and hurt yourself and break some bones, and then that's another couple of months coming back and so on, and then you're not quite on it because you're still in the back of your mind, you think you're on it. On the back of your mind, you're still worried a little bit about hurting yourself and so on. You know.
And to be blunt, you wouldn't have been enjoying those times.
No, because you're not winning.
No, that's it. That's the thing. Everyone, you know, from the outside looking in the sport, like we're getting to ride your bike every weekend. You know, it's like, well, actually, you know, it's like professionals like yourself who were getting paid to be on a bike.
You didn't enjoy finishing second. You know, it's all right.
And second was a defeat for you.
If you're fighting for a championship, then it's good, but he stood higher than me on the podium.
You're quite a short guy, Steve. I think you must have felt like quite a long time in your career.
Yeah, you're probably right. Even the bloke on the floor was taller than me.
Yeah, no, but like, let's go back.
But that was the mentality of that. You know,
no,
it was. Yeah.
No, it's a good. You know, it's a fantastic attitude to have in the fact of, you know, that criticism element and going, actually,
maybe it's because I was in such a rush to succeed because I started very late and I always thought time was running out. I don't know, but it's just, you know. I've had TV interviews and things have been quite rude to people because they said, you know, you must be happy with that. No, not in the slightest. Because you're second or third, you know. Yeah.
So it's almost like the riding the bike wasn't the enjoyment, it was the winning that was the enjoyment.
Of course it is.
Because you hear riders talking now, they're saying, I just love still riding my bike.
Bikes, but you only love riding it when you're number one.
Right.
Does the sport lack that now?
I don't know really. It's, you know, I think there's a certain amount of people who want to be racing at a high level, or do you want to be winning at a high level?
Here's a question: you know, would you want to be racing now? You know, with social media and all, you know, like
it's hard. It's really hard, you know, because you can't do anything now without a camera clicking or phone clicking and so on. So it's tough, and it wouldn't bother me,
right?
But I don't take too much notice of social media anyway. I look at everything and I watch it. I'll be, you know, I don't post too many things, only taking the mickey out of mates and things,
Good.
or people, but because it's a fun factor. But for me, you know, you have to be quite bulletproof in your own mind. So I wouldn't even look at social media if I was racing now over a race weekend, not in the slightest.
That's good. I think that's great advice.
Why would you?
No, but
why would you?
Well, that's
because everybody loves a pat on the back, but nobody likes any negativity.
No,
nobody. And you might be bulletproof with it if you've, you know, just qualified in the front row or whatever. But as soon as something's slightly wrong, it starts the little needles go in. You know.
Would that be advice to your riders? Almost, you know, would you say stay away from social media? I think it's a great. I'm not being funny. That is a great bit of advice, really, isn't it? You know what I mean?
I hate social media for that reason. I just think it's keyboard warriors.
It's difficult. It's difficult because it is, and you know, and you don't do your dirty washing in public anyway, do you?
No, you shouldn't. You shouldn't know, but people do. You know what I mean?
I never have, but it's just a case of it's difficult because everybody's entitled to an opinion.
Yeah, but they don't have to say it.
But unfortunately, the world has changed.
But it wouldn't worry me if they come to me and said it.
Because I've got the balls about them to say it.
Yeah, but you know, they'd never do it.
Very rarely.
They'd sooner write it.
Very rarely, but obviously they're keen to, you know, and listen, and there's nothing wrong with opinions in the slightest.
No.
But, you know, the only negative is reading it.
Yeah. No, I like. I tell you what. Let's hold this advice train. Let's keep it going. So let's keep it going. No, and I would like to bring it on to a different chapter. It's we have to bring it up, and that must have been very difficult for you to say in front of the world. Was the fact of Rory Skinner and his bell helmet coming off. You know what I mean? That, like, watching that footage is just surreal. And like, Rory's gone through something like, now I'm speaking from my opinion here, but if my helmet came off, that's a huge confidence knock. That is, as a rider, as a racer, like, I bet, let's face it, I bet you'd be feeling a little bit the same.
Well, it's terrifying, isn't it?
It is terrifying. The fact that he was on the grass the sole reason he was on the grass is very.
It's weird. If somebody asked you to do a lap bollock naked, but with a helmet, you'd still put a helmet on, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you would, yeah.
Yeah.
And a back protector, I would.
Probably a pair of socks.
And if,
Don't be toes getting cold.
And if it was my dad riding, it looked like his airbag suit had gone off anyway.
Class. But like, as a team or any rider in any team in any situation, wearing any product, you know what I mean? Like, watching that must have just been.
Hey, listen, freak things happen in any accident. Anywhere, RTAs from sport to anything, and obviously with that crash, Rory hit a false neutral going into Island Bend, 150 mile an hour, 40 mile, whatever it is. Picked the bike up, ran onto he actually changed down another gear just as he touched the grass, which hooped him round and down he went. It wasn't his fault. He was just trying to scrub some speed off. I've been there. That's Island Bend.
Right.
But it's just a case of, fortunately, or first of all, unfortunately, he got false neutral, he went off, he went down, but the bike gave him a good eye, didn't run him over, run across his head and the top half of his body. Now, the Isleman TT and fast circuits like that, other road race circuits, it can be quite common in very fast crashes for helmets to get pulled off. But we're not at the TT, we're not on the fast ones. It's still a very fast corner. But it did. His strap was still done up exactly as he put it on. I saw it in the medical centre, but it did manage to pull it off over. He had a really sore neck. He did manage to pull it off and over the top. Obviously, since then, the organisers, MSVR, have put a lot of effort and work in with the helmet manufacturer just to make sure there's a reasoning for it. For the helmet's gone back to them to be checked, to be tested. Kind of it's difficult because everybody's head's a different size. His head's been remeasured. They've tried different size shells with him to see if they can make it any tighter and different. But it was actually the right size shell with the right packing in there. It's just one of those freaky, weird things that can happen. Yeah,
it's surreal because you can imagine what the paddock's like. You know what I mean? What a story starts at end and it finishes a total different version of the other. And what I found very interesting at the time was like people saying it was his hair. I think, well, hold on, you're going to get every girl in the world, you know what I mean? Every female rider in the world to clip their hair off. You know what I mean? The compression element, was it fitting right? And you're thinking,
as we said earlier, everybody's welcome to their own opinion. Yeah. However, helmet manufacturers are very well aware
that people have hair,
long hair, some have short hair, and some have no hair.
Yeah.
But it's a case of weird and wonderful things happen in very fast crashes. And when you're getting pulled around like that, even your head changes shape. Can do. When he's getting to.
And you could have that same crash 20 times and you won't be able to replicate
it. Just on that, and it's it's not the brand that I wear, but it saved him. There's not a mark on his head, his face, or anything. So that's the key point.
That's the thing. There's something like sometimes, especially in this sport, it's like, his helmet's popped off, and then we just move on to the next round. It's like, well, hold on, is anyone actually going to discuss this? So thank you for actually, you know what I mean? Thank you for answering that question.
In fact, the helmet manufacturer is actually here in the paddock.
Right.
They've been discussing it and going through and looking at the footage and obviously and so on, and just working through the way forward from it. Yeah, just to obviously try and make sure it can't happen again.
Yeah, exactly.
But unfortunately, he's had to pull out of Donington this weekend.
Yeah, we obviously been speaking closely with Rory since the Alton Park incident. He was really sore and fuzzy, and he followed the protocol that the medics set out perfectly. Didn't do anything for quite some time. I think he only drove 2 days ago. So everything was perfect. And I spoke to him, what day are we today? Today is Friday. I spoke to him yesterday and he was really on a high, feeling really good. And his plan was always we very nearly got a replacement when he was not feeling it, but decided to give him first shout, obviously. And his decision was to do FP1, which I made clear to the organisers as well, do FP1 and then make a decision then, as long as he was happy, we would carry on. So out he went, and you probably saw on the times, boom, P4, P5, straight on the pace, went faster than he went at the test straight away a couple of weeks ago. And thought, flipping it, that's all right then, perfect. Almost sent the series director a message saying, looks like everything's tip-top. And he pulled in and said, okay, I just don't feel right. He said, I feel a step behind the bike all the time. he said, I actually feel quite fast and good in what I'm doing, but he said, I just feel like I'm always playing catch up and I'm always thinking of things I should have thought about back there.
Right.
Fair, but
So I said, which is unnormal because most people would, we just grin and bear it and get on with it. I said, fine, okay, mate. I said, but there's no pressure. It's your decision. However, I've been there. Go away. Have some rest before free practice 2. Go out and do a few laps. If it's still the same, you met the call then, which he agreed to. Said, yep, perfect. That'll do nicely. He went away, had a little bit of lunch and went and sat in his camper, and he came back just for a session. He said, I still feel a bit fuzzy. I'm not happy. So I said, well, it's your call. He said, okay, I'm going to step down.
Fair play, you know what I mean?
So takes some doing that. Takes some doing. Don't it?
So I then asked him to go and see the medics, just to be checked again, because it's good feedback for them as well. Because concussion's a funny thing. You can't be very, it can't be. Everybody's different, so it was good for them to check him over again. And he's decided to stand down. There's only I think 11 days until the knock-hill test, and that's when he'll ride again.
Right, after the TT. Yeah. No, is that?
No, it's practice week of the TT.
God, Bennett, fair play, Rory. Fair play, mate.
On the Rory point, how did that conversation come around for Tas to secure Rory? Because obviously Moto2 last year, and I bumped into Hopper at Alton.
And he was in the car park when he got the boot. Philip and Hector were just getting out the car. I went, oh, fucking hell, he's booting you. I'll have you, son. They asked him, get in the car, young'un. Get in the car. We'll have a chat.
Well, I'd had a chat with Hopper at Alton, and he said that obviously he's still working closely with him. And he
still manages Rory, yeah.
He says, I'm...
And they're close friends as well.
Yeah, and he said that he was sort of... He's gutted that he's not still in Grand Prix, because he said, I think he still deserves to be in there, and he's the calibre of a Grand Prix rider. He just needed the time. And
he's a class act. He's come straight back here and been top 5 everywhere, which is a shame for what's gone on. It's he's obviously got close ties with Cheshire Mouldings. They personally sponsor him, and they also sponsor the team, sponsor Tas, which all ties in nicely. And Philip and I were talking about various riders, and his name was at the top of the list, and so Philip went to work and made sure we had somebody competitive for this year, which is great, and the other positive side was
some Northern Irish fella going, "Do you want to ride for me, son?" Yeah. No problem, mate. Whatever you want.
The other positive is, he wanted to bring along his crew with him, which was Stuart Shenton, who, if you don't know Stuart Shenton is, he took Kevin Swans to his World Championship in 1993. Right. He worked for Suzuki for years, for many as Kawasaki factory, as well as all Grand Prix, and he's a very well respected crew chief across the world. Yeah, good guy, knows his stuff.
And that's not just him then, that's the whole of Rory's side.
Yeah, well, on top of that, we changed things around. We've got a new electronics guy, and he's come across from, he's with the KTM in the World Championship as well.
Right.
Some good people. So it's, and Rory's very confident with these guys as well, which again, going back to what I said before,
point of having,
is the feel factor and being happy, because Rory had a torrid time last year. For various reasons. But we've got a really good rapport in the box, and and I think it's paying dividends to both riders how they're riding.
Fair play. Yeah. No, you can see it. You can see it with them, like you say. Yeah. It's happy camp.
So, for a lot of our listeners that heard looking for a replacement rider, is this written into riders' contract? For people that don't sit, from the outside looking in, for people who don't know the detail within the paddock, paddock life on that side of things, it looks incredibly malicious, doesn't it? It's like, he's fucked, reel in the next one, and it's, talk us through the process, when contracts are signed, is it written in? Is that agreement written in? It's like, if you get injured, unfortunately,
there are agreements within contracts of obviously payments and so on for, if you have to miss a round, you're still paid. But obviously if that goes on for a long time, then, Philip Neal's one of the best team managers I've ever worked with. I never rode for him, obviously very nearly. Do
you regret that?
I would have liked to, yeah. I do regret it, because it would have changed. I wanted to win the BSP. And I had a chance. I would have had a chance with that team. I would, but anyway, it didn't happen.
He did sign a contract later on, but here he is.
But Philip's probably too loyal for his own good sometimes.
Right.
Great guy, he really is. especially when it comes to contracts, everything is black and white, perfect. So he'd never swerve from anything that he agrees to. But obviously, it's business as well. He has partners he works with, and you know, obviously, when I say partners, sponsors, and
of course,
You have a responsibility to put the bike on the grid, don't you?
Of course. So it's difficult at times like this because obviously, as Rory proved this morning, they're still fast. You know, he was still bang straight in the top 5, but not really safe to. And for the sake of standing down just for this Donington Park meeting, to be back on the pipe at Knockhill, which he will be.
Yeah.
Then fair play will reap the rewards there.
Do you have a database of people that you can call on, or is it a case of?
Yeah, we discussed. Philip and I discussed different riders that we wanted if Rory would have said no earlier on.
Yeah.
You know, and it's his decision. You know, and Philip Neal's fully behind the decision not to ride here as well, because it's, you know, on safety grounds, and you know, it's a funny area to be in. Obviously, a bang on the head, so it's really important to keep on top of it. And so Philip's 100% with that. He wouldn't want him riding at 85%. You know,
so I'm still shocked that his age, that he's gone. It's mature, is that?
It is, isn't it?
Because we talked about it before, and you said, in my day, I'd have just got on it and done it.
Not just me.
No. Yeah,
it's still the same now at GP.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah, 100%. That's why I think it's fair play to him. Because there is a pressure on him. I don't care.
Of course there is, yeah.
You know, he sees the trucks there, the bikes there, he's got all the guys here, you know.
Yeah.
Everyone's looking at him going, are you going to ride then or not, Rory? To turn around and say...
So contractually...
Then he saw Joe with his helmet and his levers going, come on, son, off you get. Off you get.
Yeah,
so if you watch him in free...
He was immediately at ease when Steve was behind going...
It's difficult, isn't it? Because you still got people to keep happy, but luckily, you know, Toddy's doing a great job. Incredible job. I know it's not super bike, it's super stock, but it's still flipping fast, and he's, you know, I think Alton Park, he'd have been 12th or 13th on a super bike where he's going that quick.
I'm going to ask the question, why are you tempted at all to put him in superbike as well as stock?
Stuart Higgs asked the same question earlier, you know, when he was talking about other riders and things. Obviously, first of all, if I found a replacement, it would be a BMW rider. Mm-hmm. You know,
well, for politics alone on that side of things, but
there's some fast guys as test riders at the moment for BMW. Right. I would have pursued that side, and then on top of that, there are other riders. You know, good, decent riders that are on the sidelines. Call them ambulance chasers. I've been there, you know, but various other people. But you know, it's got to be worthwhile. It's got to be a big enough spectacle for our team partners to be happy with as well. So it's not easy, you know.
No, far from
especially at short notice, you know. You've still got people like Tom Sykes hanging around, you know, and so on, which there would have been conversations, you know. But it's just about whether he wanted to do it or not. I don't know at the moment, but it's just a case of.
But you've got Davy Todd sitting there with his levers and helmet.
Davy Todd is employed to win the Superstock Championship in 2024. He's leading the championship. He's on the pipe. He's on the pace. I wouldn't want him to get hurt on a one-off ride just for the sake of risking a championship. And at the moment, the roads.
Oh, you see, it's just interesting. You've got to be a racing.
That was going to be your point. Was he is?
Yeah, I mean,
you can't take
later in the year,
away from it, can you?
You know.
But even later in the year, would you want to do it? Because he's in a strong position in the stock. You don't want to risk
winning the Superstock Championship.
Yeah.
If he's in that position, and hopefully he's fast now, and he'll continue being fast, and I'm very confident he will be. But it's just a case of if that is signed up early, then maybe things will change. But until then,
you don't even dangle the carrot to him. Don't even dangle the carrot.
Yeah, no, I've spoken about it. There's no dangling carrots. You know, and he fully agrees because he wants to. He wanted to be winning at the North Wedge, which he did. You know, he wants to be winning at Superstock, which he did. He wants to do the best he can at the TT. I'm not going to say anything on results.
Oh no! Hey, no one listens to the show. You can tell us. It's just us
two in here. He hasn't said what he wants. Obviously, he wants to win TTs. Of course, he does. Otherwise, he wouldn't be going. But that's not saying he's going to do it this year, and he's not spouting off saying he's going to do it either. And that, as long as he goes to the next level, he's on 132s at the moment. As long as he raises his game and keeps going, I'm as happy as Larry, and so will Milwaukee be as well.
Yeah.
However, you got to be realistic. You know, he could be better than that.
So in your opinion, has Davy Todd done enough laps to win a TT?
Of course he has. But everybody's different. You know, some people learn faster than others, and, you know, he's probably got his best chance now. He's in with a good squad. But the stars need to align to win a TT. You need a little bit of luck. You need to be riding very well. Everything around you must be good, you know, and so on. So it's...
Now, is a 32 up to a 36 too much of a jump?
Who says it's going to be 36 this year?
Yeah.
That's my question, because we don't know what the weather's going to be like and so on, and that's not saying that any of the boys are going to be slow. You know, there's a lot of questions in my mind for 2024 TT, because, you know, there's quite a few of the riders have been through a rough patch, injuries and so on. They're still not quite back on it. And I'm talking front runners. There's another front runner that's on a super stock bike, not a super bike as well. So it's wide open. It's wide open. You know,
I tell you what,
I want is for Davey not to overstep the mark, keep improving, and I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
What was Davey's first year at the TT?
I reckon 17.
Dom thinks it was 17 or 18. I don't know.
He was on the Burrows bike, wasn't he?
Could have been 17, you know.
It must. Are you allowed to ride at 11?
I tell you what. Speaking of age, and age is only a number when it comes to this man. And we're obviously continuing the momentum of the Northwest, but we have to talk about your number one man, John McGuinness. I tell you what, mate, what have you done to that bike? You got him on the podium.
Just a fat bricky from Markham, isn't he? But, yeah.
Oh, man.
He never laid a brick in his life.
I said that every time he pulls I'm a bricky. I'm like, when did you last lay a brick?
Who's a better bricklayer, you or McGuinness?
I'll bet you 500 quid I am. Faster.
Hold on.
And better.
Hold on. I'm not competitive anymore, Steve Plater. You know what I mean? I'll outbrick him, no bother.
We'll do a charity.
They called me Zorro, the flashing blade.
For fuck's sake. Yeah. This is what the show's getting to now. I love it. No, but all seriousness, you know, yeah, we've got to talk about it. The fact that Davey pulled in the Parc Fermé, and then you had Peter Hickman come in. There was barely well done. And then there was just this huge fucking tsunami from the last turn all the way to the Parc Fermé, and it just got louder and louder.
I thought you meant John.
Yeah, blowing.
Hey, listen, the crowd erupted. The grandstand was brilliant. It really was.
Insane.
It was, obviously the boys were fast at the front, but it wasn't the best race. It's probably the one to watch, I mean. But obviously John putting it on the podium kind of made up for all that. It was mega.
Mate, did you go see him?
I went up to John in the winner's enclosure, stuck my arms around him and just tapped him on the helmet, and I said, mate, I'm coming out of retirement.
I tell you what, that's a good question.
It was lovely. It was lovely to see, obviously, the family in there with him and so on, just all beaming faces, and yeah, that's what it's all about. 12 years since his last podium there. And then I walked over to the other side of the road and bumped into Adrian Archibald.
Wow.
Bloody hell.
That was his first visit back since he was on the podium with John 12 years ago.
How is Adrian?
Mega, just turned himself completely off from motorbike, not just motorbike racing, has never ridden on two wheels since he stopped. Weird, isn't it? That was his first visit back, and great to see him here. Great to see him.
But then you've got the polar opposite of being John McGuinness, and the mindset he's got. You know what I mean? It's just it's hard for me to say this. I can't believe the words are coming out of my mouth, but he's a dark horse. At what point did we ever think that John McGuinness was never going to be an outside bet? You know, he is an outside bet this year.
Everyone
100%.
wrote him off in 2015, didn't they? You know, they all said he's done. He's not going to do anything, and he went out and won the senior. And do you know, I spanned for him at Alton a couple of weeks ago, because obviously Honda have got quite a bit going on, haven't they? They've got quite a bit on their plate.
I wouldn't mean quite a bit. Jesus.
So they basically said to John, you know, take the stocker and go and run it and get some more bike time, race time. And so he rang me, said, you know, will you come and... Stockers are fairly straightforward, aren't they? It's tyres and fuel and a bit of a check over. So I said, yeah, no bother at all. So we did that, and you know, it's the fastest he's ever been on a stock bike. He's 52 years old, and it was the quickest he's ever been round Alton. So, you know, I understand that everything's evolving, including the bike, but he just seems in a really good place. And I think from, you know, I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but we did a
it's almost permission to say anything you want at that point.
We did a charity bike ride yesterday for Yorkshire Children's Charity.
Cycling?
Definitely not cycling. No.
It's funny. No, the only reason why I asked that, because in Navarra, the two biggest shocks I got, not just the lap around Navarra, but the two biggest shocks I got was seeing Hickman and McGuinness both cycling around the circuit.
Yeah, but John's got an electric bike, which is cheating, isn't it? He ain't going to do full power himself.
No, exactly.
He's like Homer Simpson. He only walks downhill. But yeah, we did this charity ride, and then he had to do some guest speaking. He talked through a lap, and he said in 2015 his odds at the bookies were 18-1, and he said it just lit a fire in him and to go out, and obviously then he went out and won the senior. And I just think he's in a happy place. He also said, someone had said to him, "What are your odds this year?" And he said, "I don't think I'm going to do 136s." And he said, "I think I'd be bullshitting you to say that I can do a 136, but I'm happy and I'm confident." And I think I honestly believe a podium is achievable this year.
I've said all winter there's podium potential there.
Yeah.
Because obviously it depends on so many different things. But John's
You'd put a bet on it.
So smooth, so safe, and he won't overstep the mark. But if it's there, he'll
dig in
put a
for
little
it.
bit more effort in. 100%.
I think he's taking the pressure off himself a little bit as well. I think he's accepted.
He's in a good place.
Yeah,
he really
Hickey
is,
and.
I tell you what's impressive though, because he's a. If you cut him in half, there'd be only a few colours, wouldn't there? There'd be Dunlop, Honda, you know what I mean, the TT, and it's him going over to the Metzlers. The fact that he's banging out his personal bests already at these circuits. You're thinking he's building confidence, he's getting faster.
Yeah, Metzler have done a little
class.
bit of work, though, haven't they? They've done a little bit of work over the winter to bring a different tyre in that he says is behaving much nicer than what he's been used to. So
I think that's the case of John getting used to it as well.
Yeah.
Compared to what he's used to on the Dunlops,
and Davey's gone from Dunlops over to the Metzlers. Glenn Irwin's been on the Metzlers for I did my first 130 mile an hour this year on Metzlers. You know what I mean? It's like that, but then it's hard to change a mindset, isn't it? And I think that's working for John now. If you know what I mean, it's hard to shit. He's won so many races on Dunlops, and now he's trying to reprogram his mind to go, actually, hold on, I can get the job done here now.
Yeah,
very, very much so. And it takes John's one of those personalities that likes everything as it was last year.
Right?
Yeah. He really is massively. Obviously, tyres change and things do change, but he would never want to change anything very much. He always likes just a slight chink, just to change things and to obviously try and improve slightly, but doesn't like big changes, and certainly wouldn't have been very happy to begin with being on a different tyre brand.
Here's a question: with Dean Harrison being his teammate, will that benefit him? And has he always worked well with teammates on that side of things? Bouncing ideas off, setups, or is John quite?
I think John's gone in there as the senior member, hasn't he? They've got Nathan Harrison as well, and Dean Harrison. And
he must have got banged up a fair bit, Nathan, God love him, because his boot was off and on, after sessions and stuff like that. He's definitely seen, I don't know the lad. Me and Chrissy interviewed him, but he seems to be definitely putting on a brave face at the moment. He's properly...
Good kid. I mean, he was hobbling at Oldham Park, for sure. And he's obviously been banged around, but I think he's actually not so bad.
Which is good.
I've spoken to him, which is great, and he seems to be coming on real quick now. But going back to what you said, obviously I was teammates with John in 9 and 10. And John was brilliant, really. He was probably more uneasy with me being there than what I realised, at the TT, because I knew I was the man to beat at the Northwest in those years, whereas John was obviously the king of the TT. So for me, it was just more about trying to learn as much as I could from what John was doing and how he did things at the TT, just to try and improve myself,
Yeah.
Was he always open with you?
Yeah, he was good. John, I mean, he wouldn't just tell you things, obviously, because he wants to flip and beat you, which is quite natural. But if John thought you were putting yourself in danger somewhere, because I was still new to the TT, he would tell you straight out, which was brilliant. It really was, yeah. And he's been the same with other people since.
Yeah.
It's obviously, what a duo now, Harrison and McGuinness. Incredible. There's so much. Dean's got an awful lot of experience around a TT course now, of course, and and somebody as settled as John can really help out, especially on, on setup and, Hickey proved last year you don't particularly need a superbike to go fast. So I know there's been obviously the talk of, Honda with the issues with the new bike and so on. Wouldn't call them issues, but it's more the case of you don't need massive horsepower at the TT these days.
No,
certainly not all that the modern day superbikes have got.
What's your take on that? Where these BMW superbikes are, what's a BMW superbike making from the horse's mouth?
There are so many different figures, and obviously all dynos are different.
Yeah.
Depending on the weather, depending on the dyno spec, and so on.
Right, you're 4 glasses of wine in, you're in the pub, you're chatting shite. Well, you know what I mean? And then some bloke turns up in a Kawasaki jacket, and you've had enough. You've had an argument with the wife.
If I was 4 glasses of wine in, I'll be in A&E. Not in the pub. No, seriously. I mean,
figures. What are the pub figures of a BMW? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Between a stocker and a superbike.
I mean, you're getting up to sort of. A stocker's a big horsepower now.
Yeah. It's just you hear people saying, "Oh, they're 235, they're 240, they're 215."
Yeah.
Where are we?
Massively depends on the dyno. You'd be talk. I think BMWs are between 230 and 40
for a superbike,
for a full spec superbike.
Right. Yeah. That's within a 10 horsepower window.
Yeah,
it's just good
because they're all different.
And a stocker 215.
But it's not in my opinion, it's not a frightening. To ride, it's not a frightening amount of horsepower because they're quite grunty and linear. Don't pull your arms out of the socket. But
and electronics are so
you get in places quick, very quick.
Yeah, that's putting it lightly on that side of things. I tell you what, I must ask while we're talking about legends. You went back now to the TT. You still had your bite. You still had your I want to go and beat. I want to build a bigger wall than McGuinness. This is your wall. We're talking your hypothetical wall here. You go to the TT.
Bond?
You did. You've gone to the TT. You've done the same amount of riding as John. Same bike, same everything. What speed do you think you could do now with all the track improvements and safety?
Just enough to beat John.
God, I'd love to be your pit board man. P2, come on. Imagine it. Just imagine it. Jesus wept. No, but seriously though, you're 130 man around the TT circuit, and that would have been.
It's funny because I did the last parade I did it on Scott Russell's Suzuka 8-hour Lucky Strike Suzuki, which is like 750 megabit kit, good chassis and so on. Not super sport horsepower to a certain degree, like I was talking about earlier, but easy to ride. And I went round with Ian Simpson, and it was brilliant because Simo's a real good. He's a good friend, good guy. And
he was a hell of a jockey as well.
Simo still knows his way around there very, very, very quickly. Anyway, so I followed Simo all the way as we got to Ramsey, and he watched over on the mountain sections when I did the fastest splits over there back in my day, many, many moons ago. And so I thought, right, I'll go in front of Ramsey and take him, bring him back home. And Gary Thompson took us to one side out. He said, "Flipping heck, so you boys were proper on it." I said, "Mate, we weren't trying. We were just riding fast, but not, sticking an X on my line." And it was a good lap time, But just a couple of lads having fun.
I tell you what, I must bring it up. Michael Dunlop doing that 127 on the Marshall bike.
Hey,
that is the most impressive thing in the world.
Yeah. Road tyres, no checking the tyre pressures, was there? Leave the mirrors on, just crack on. Just a bike, just set off down.
Just shows how good all road bikes are now.
It does,
incredible. Incredible. Yeah.
But like, see, if you're going to put a number on it, if it's, I'm talking about this.
Do you think you do 133s, 134s?
Nah, I don't want it enough. And the TT is very safe to ride quite quickly. And quite quickly is, from my experience doing parade laps and things, so you're not on it. But if you went to 128, that'd be quite doable, easy. But above that, then you're starting to take risks because you're not 100% sure where you are and what's different. So that's when you really need to understand and to know the TT course, because it will bite you hard.
Did you spend a lot of time learning that place?
Huge.
Yeah.
I kind of not changed things, but I spent an awful lot of time. I walked a lot of sections, and even once that was pre-event, but then when I got there, I was up at 5-6 o'clock every morning, going out, working on bad points and walking through sections and doing everything. It's just purely to understand what's coming next and maybe to find a tipping in point or a particular point of a section, you know. And some of them you didn't. You just always hated it and never felt comfy with it, you know. And I think it's fair to say the mountain section I was at one with, but like from Ginger Hall to Ramsey was difficult to learn. Everybody finds different areas hard.
See, I found the mountain really hard to learn because there's not the same points. I don't think the same references that you get with the rest of the course. I always found the mountain really difficult to get my head around.
There's loads of references over the mountain. You see,
it's mad how people's brains are different.
But however, going over the mountain, your references has got to be a little dot in the distance because you're going so fast. That's it's a massive point. But hey, everybody's different.
Yeah.
You know, people learn things at different speeds as well.
Do you have a prediction for? I mean, we could spend hours on this. For let's say the senior, have you a prediction for top 3 or top 4?
Oh, I like that. Now, bear in mind,
I'd say top 5 actually, because I think that
we had a conference call this morning about the TT podcast preview. And one of the questions.
Got that one in, didn't you?
One of the questions.
You're not leaving the studio. We're shutting down the podcast, the TT podcast. We're eliminating it right now. So
one of the questions was, we spoke about was, or somebody mentioned was a prediction for the senior. I said, forget that. I said, for me, it's all about the first race
to set the tone
because everybody's fresh.
Yeah.
You know, going on during the week. You're getting the mileage and so on. You've got all the races, all the practice, but depending on the weather, obviously.
Yeah,
we had a great year last year. But it's more important who's going to win the first Superbike.
Go on then. Prediction for the first Superbike then.
It's difficult.
Harrison.
It's difficult.
Harrison, Dunlop, Hickman. That's what my gut's telling me.
It depends. Because of a bit of negativity for this year with injuries, with people probably not being at 100% and so on.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Broken hands,
Could Connor Cummins do what we want him to do?
That sounds like you, Joe.
No, because Connor would probably be in my top 3. If all the stars align for Connor, I think he's more than capable.
The whole island wants him to win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what I love. You know what I mean? No, everyone wants him to because we're a nation of underdogs, aren't we? But I tell you what, in the name,
we might go through practice week as we have been before, with hold up after hold up after hold up because of the weather. Gary will do a mega job and get time in as he always does. However, it might not be quality time.
Yeah.
We've been through so many. During my time there, we've been through so many years of. We haven't had enough time. We want more laps. We want to squeeze this into other years, like last year. We're over mileage. We don't want any more practice.
Do you remember
we can't afford to put new
do you remember
engines
2017? That was the first time I went to the TT from the Manx, and they were that desperate to get laps in practice. They ran us to Ramsey, and then we had to follow a car.
Yeah, that was incredible.
Because nobody done anything. There'd been no laps at all.
Legally, to tick the box, I had to get the laps in. It's just.
It was desperate.
Hey, there's never a perfect scenario, but it's just.
Go on, Howie. Go on, put your money where your mouth is, lads.
Howie.
I just think.
What does that mean? What is that?
No, Howie here, dear. Right, in the name of sport. I just think the most wild card result would be generally Dean Harrison. He's hungry. He's out to prove a point.
I'm riding well.
Incredibly well.
Yeah.
Michael Dunlop, because he did it last year, you know what I mean? He just went out the blocks like he was on it. And I just think Hickman may see a board at some point in the race and go, oh shit, I've got to go here. And he'll claw back in. I've just got this. But then the thing is, I'm saying this because without, this is my political answer on it. The fact is, Davey's riding well, Connor Cummins right.
Yeah.
The top 6 could just bang a result in. But in the name of sport and fun, I'm going to put Harrison, Dunlop. What a change we think.
I think if you're going to go off what we already know, the top 3 are going to be in any particular order.
No.
Hickey, Dean, and Michael. But like you say,
I've got a better question.
Here we go.
Right?
Go on.
So that because you're being a bit political,
I love it.
You're down to your last £100.
I'm out. I'm out. I'm out.
Whatever you put your money on is going to pay the mortgage this month.
Well, I'll check with Mrs. if I can chuck that in. You haven't met my missus, she's savage. She knows I've spent my last 100 quid.
Is that her skirt you're wearing?
Yeah.
So,
last 100 quid.
You've got to win.
Go on, how are you?
Dean
for the win. Go on then.
This is the first race of the week.
First race. That's what I like about your question is it's not much on the senior or building momentum. First race.
I'm genuinely anxious now about it.
It's class.
I put my last 100 quid on it.
I know.
Michael Dunlop.
Yeah, well, he's number 2. He'd be my second choice because.
Yep. So I'd say Michael.
Yeah.
I'm loving it.
It's between them two, isn't it? But if I can only put 100 quid on it, I'll stick with my Yorkshireman.
This is.
I don't know if being patriotic is going to get me anywhere in this.
I'm loving this. That is.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with that.
That's the best thing about it because
the thing is, though, when you're talking about it,
but the best thing about this conversation is we just don't know.
We have no idea. It's not like that's a piece of piss.
Yeah. Obviously,
I believe Davey's going to be there or thereabouts, and I think
the two biggest favourites obviously is Hickey but both are battered and bruised.
That's what I mean.
Okay, Pete Hickman and obviously Michael Dunlop. I suppose the question is there, who's the toughest? Who's going to come out fighting the biggest? We know that is. And off of that, there's a spin-off of many riders that are very fast and could be snapping at the heels, from Dean to Toddy to Connor. You don't, and listen, Josh Brooks won't be a million miles off.
No. He's a 132 man. You know, around there. It's class, isn't it? We're coming into the season, boys. It's absolutely mental. But
100 quid on the mortgage in a charity boxing match between Michael Dunlop and
me.
Well,
no.
Anyone, you just put your money behind Dunlop, wouldn't you?
100%.
It doesn't matter which name you say next, does it?
100%. I love it. Absolutely love it. I tell you what. Before we're nowhere near finished the show. Unfortunately for you, Steve, you're not going anywhere. But we've got to talk about the F900. And first of all, before we go into how it's doing, how are can we talk through that incident? Obviously, Katie Water got hurt, and there was a big pile up on the warm up lap, I believe. And really, what I'm asking is, how are they injured? How's everyone doing?
Yeah, scary moment.
Yeah, really good. Obviously, first of all, the BMW F900R Cup Mega One Make Series. I think a lot of people have seen it. Probably a lot of your fan base have seen it on the box, and it's a great series and been doing really well. We've been very lucky, touch wood, not to have anything very serious go wrong so far, as in accidents and crashes. Obviously, the normal bits and bobs, people jumping off. But Alton Park, there was a scenario on the beginning of the warm-up lap where a rider had a problem with his bike. It cut out, causing everybody to swerve out the way, and there was quite a big pile up, I think 7 or 8 bikes in total, somewhere there, roughly. Quite a few injuries, but the most serious was Katie Walker, as you said. Yes. She was flown to Aintree Hospital. On a positive note, they didn't put her in a coma to take her away, so that was a positive note. However, she did have a slight bleed in the brain, so it was nobody really knew how she was going to get on, recovery and so on, for a few days. So all the bikes involved in the accident were impounded for normal protocol reasons. But the very next morning, Katie was actually sat up in bed having a bit of breakfast.
Oh, fantastic!
And making a slight conversation. This is what Maria Costello told me that looks after her.
Yeah.
She's improved pretty quickly, and then we got through to yesterday, which was Thursday. And Katie's been released from the hospital, so it's all looking very positive. Back to her family at home, so it was really good. There are other guys, boys and girls, injured. And some big bangs and some broken bones, but they'll all recover very well. And the good thing is as well, they've all got another 6 weeks now before the next round at Sneston British Super meeting. So hopefully we can get them all saddled up, fit, peaking and get their bikes fixed, and get back on the grid.
Next question: why haven't you having a go at it yet?
Well, because they all need a chance, don't they?
Oh, fuck off! Fuck off! No, but hold on, Ollie, you should have turned up when Cooper was there.
We've had this.
Oh, and Troy Corsick, you mate.
The bloke who won every race and pissed off, into the distance.
Hey, listen, he didn't win the championship for the last round.
That's because Strudwick was
Thomas
finishing second.
rode so well. No, seriously, Coops was mega for the championship last year. You know, I'm taking the mickey. He was a good ambassador and did a great job, you know, and deserved everything he got. He put a lot of effort in and rode really. Coops rides well and everything.
He could ride a unicycle though, Win.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He can pedal a bike, the lad.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, been there, done it, won it. And when you wake up in A&E on Monday morning and think, why did I do that?
You should have. Give the people
You
what
didn't
they want.
fancy having a run out with Troy when Troy did the
Yeah.
wild card at the end of last year?
No, do you know what? If I was to do a round, it would be Cabell Park. Obviously, it's my local
Home
track. I
round,
only live
yeah,
15 miles away and so on. And I love the place to pieces. But again, I've got so much going on. I'm looking after the 100 Cup and I'm managing the Superbike team, Super Stock and so on. There's an awful lot going on in my life as well as... So it's a risk as well as, you know, and I've got to be on my game really. So it's not really wise to be buzzing around on a racing mindset. Yeah.
So what's the next stage with the F900? You know, to get it more popular. You know, how to get it from...
I've got 53 riders on the books this year.
Right.
Or 55, somewhere there. You know, I think 44 riders went to Navarra to the first round, and then obviously Alton Park, was a disaster for what happened on the start line. So those races will be replaced at one of the other rounds. So it's strong. I've had 2 more join since Alton Park as well. So numbers are growing. It's good. You know, we've got some wild cards this year. We've got some big names coming in for 1 or 2 races that I can't say at the moment because the wives will kill me. But no, seriously. But it's going from strength to strength at the moment. It's a good, cheap or budget-friendly championship. All racing is very expensive, as we know, but it's very cost-effective to be racing in front of the cameras at British Superbikes. It really is.
If anyone listening to this would want to make that transition across from doing whatever they're doing to come into the F900 Cup, how's the best way of them doing that?
Contact me, Steve at steveplater.com.
077145.
Contact me. There's 2 options. One is to get you a hire bike to do a wild card, a one-off meeting, maybe as a bit of a taster before you invest in a new bike, which obviously is all subsidised through BMW UK and not just the bike. Obviously the bike build, it's probably cheaper than going club racing. Yeah, to do a season it is. Yeah, a season at club or here will be. Yeah, so it's and obviously you can, if you're good enough to find yourself a bit of sponsorship, you can show it off here with the TV cameras.
Yeah. That's sound.
I'll tell you what, but I'm gonna have to jump quickly. I made a note in this, and not very often do I leave notes. Even Chrissy will be proud of us for that one. But I've got it very much circled, highlighted if not. Northwest 200, Paul Cassidy.
Oh,
Mate, have you seen that video?
Seen it? I call him. He's obviously from the Isle of Man, isn't he?
Mate, I think
Paul
he flew in
Cassidy.
from the Isle of Man. That's how I was.
I call him PPL Cassidy, private pilot's license. Mate, from the pit lane, you know, from the start finish, he went as high as the window in the gable end.
yeah.
He's such a lucky lad. He managed to land on the front of that car.
No, do you know who owned that car?
I know. I watched him run down there to check on his missus and his kid.
Shut up, man. Of course, that's why the car would have been parked. So Gary McCoy, who
Yep.
was...
He ran all the way down to the first corner, worried about his missus and his child that he thought was watching in the front garden.
Yeah.
And he came running back. I said, mate, is everything all right? He went, oh, do you know what? He said, yeah. He said, luckily they weren't there. They was out of the way. And he said, but Mervyn owes me a bonnet and a front panel from the car.
No, but I tell you what, like, that, you can imagine the comments underneath it all. It's a bit like... You working for the Northwest, or a part of the Northwest. It's a bit like, in a situation like that, who is going to pay it? Is that right? Is it innocent? Is the Northwest going to pay it?
Of course it'll be covered.
Yeah, no, it's very interesting because
yeah.
imagine that insurance clip, like some bloke fell out the sky to me. Yeah, shut up, mate. You know what I mean? Then you send him the video.
Actually, when he walked back, he said it was a BMW. It wasn't. It was a Volkswagen. When he said BMW, I thought JKC will sort that.
Yeah, 100%. Just swap it out.
Unfortunately, it was a Volkswagen.
But for the people, you have to go looking through the internet to find that video. 100% worth doing. But all joking aside, if Gary McCoy's car was not parked there, Paul Cassidy would have been.
Story.
It would have been a total different story.
Completely different story. Yeah.
Like the fact that a bonnet. You know, how many action films have we all seen when they've jumped out of a building, landed in a car, and they get up and walk away? Paul Cassidy is living proof that Hollywood is no longer bullshit.
Jackie Chan's not lying.
That clip on social media is in slow motion as he goes in sideways. And it doesn't look like he's going to go it doesn't even look like he's going that fast because it's in slow motion, obviously. And he hits the wall and he suddenly shoots. He said he jumped up. Flipping heck, he's got some spring in his step. But he went so high. Unbelievable. Did 3 somersaults, and then when he come back down, he was kind of thinking the worst to a certain degree. No,
he's just landed right as well, hasn't he? Because
So
if he
lucky.
landed differently, it would
so lucky.
you know.
But I tell you what, you've got to tell people, right? Because if it comes from me, people just think it's bullshit, it's normal. But how fast are you going into there? Because what he was saying was he clipped another rider.
Yeah.
So how fast are you going into, turn 1?
They scrubbed a bit of speed off, but
Yep.
he
First, second,
4th gear.
4th gear,
Yeah.
right? So how fast is that, lads?
You only
TT
roll.
gear as
You
well.
don't slow. You don't shut off. You only roll slightly. It's 4th gear, so
100
you'll be doing 130, 40 mile an hour.
130 miles an hour and he hit a wall.
Yeah. I mean, he scrubbed some speed off, but not enough.
Credit to them
Obviously,
air fences as well.
Yeah,
That's what
yeah,
he did it
yeah,
in air fence, which sort of
Erect cell.
Erect cell one, yeah,
it did, mate, which pinged him up and did its job. It really did, yeah. Hey, lucky. And the good thing is he was able to hang around and tell the tale.
I can't believe it. I saw him at the Macau meeting. Like literally sitting there. Obviously, the Macau organisers, they invite riders, you have to get a personal invitation.
Patrick.
And I'm just Patrick and some crap. Like, I'm just looking at Paul Cassidy going, can I be in his pit box? You know what I mean? If I'm going to Macau, I want to share a pit box with that man right there. That man is the luckiest fella in the world. Like, I could not believe that. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, fair play.
That's
a story to tell at the bar, isn't it?
That washes ours away totally. 100% it does.
When you talk about your Northwest crash, I can see you and raise you.
100% over. But I'll tell you what, before we move on to the Patreon questions, what else does the future hold for Cheshire Maldon's BMW then? So
It's all looking rosy, obviously. With as far as Dave is concerned, he's he's running really strong in the British Superstock and riding really well. So that's ongoing. Rory's back at Knockhill. He'll do the Knockhill test on next Tuesday, Wednesday. In preparation, obviously, it's one of his favourite.
He's on home soil.
Home soil, and one of his favourite tracks. So it's not going to be easy. It's a tough circuit to pass on and to race on, but there's a test there for everybody, plus it gives him a chance to get back up to speed. So hopefully, on the Cheshire Maldon side, it's all looking positive. Obviously it's negative this weekend, but it's all looking positive for the future. And then obviously Tas are a very, very busy team. From the Milwaukee side, Todd is about to embark on his TT journey. He's racing there on the Super Stock, Super Bike, Super Sport and Super Twin. So he's got a busy 2 weeks coming up. And then, of course, we're all flying over shooting up to Knockhill to crack on. So it's a good setup in the team. I'm just trying to keep that momentum going. We've got some good partners we're working with. The team's doing a great job. The team boss, Philip Neal, it's never easy when things go wrong, but he's he's working well behind the scenes and making our job a little bit easier.
Mega.
I'll tell you what, we're going to jump straight in with the Patreon questions. These are good. Steve, Alex Chapman is asking you, what was the scariest part of the TT course? Why?
I'm going to have a read of some of these.
Yeah, good lad. Oh, mate. I tell you what, the job would have been easy if we read these first. The interview would have pissed by.
I won't remember them.
Alex, for me, Bray Hill.
Really?
Doesn't make sense, does it?
That was the scariest bit for you.
You're a quarter of a mile down the road, and the thing is for me, Bray Hill, you're in 6th gear.
Yeah.
You're doing 100 and plenty, and it feels like you're riding off the edge of the world. It's really hard to find markers and things, and it's just, I never felt at ease there until my 3rd year, really. Yeah, tough place. There's other places I struggled. 13th milestone, all the way from flipping Ginger Old Ramsey was graft, but I hated the 13th. But I would say Brayhill's probably the one I was most uneasy at, because cold tyres, full tank of fuel, first lap down, it wasn't as bad on the flying lap, but yeah, Brayhill.
Now I didn't expect that one to happen. Go on.
I'm just reading through now.
They're class, aren't they?
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, Tracy Dudley, what's been your favourite bike to race?
God, yeah. 1999 factory ZXR 750 at the Bol d'Or for Kawasaki France. Happy memories. I smashed the lap record. that was the last bowl door on that circuit. The circuit's changed since. I smashed it, and for me, I was a super sport rider. I just managed to get a break on a super bike, and a great team, along with Steve Hislop and some other big French names. Smashed the lap record, but you got to understand the likes of other people that have been there was Jean-Michel Bale, Miguel de Hamel, Carl Fogarty, Terry Reimer, Steve Hislop. So for me,
did you get along with Carl Fogarty?
Yeah, that was not then. I didn't know him. I didn't know him then. I didn't.
Yeah.
You know, he was obviously one of my heroes, a world champion at everything. You know, or won races at every discipline, and was a multiple world champion. Yeah.
Who was your biggest racing icon?
Kevin Swans, because I didn't get into racing until very late. For me, you know, I probably told you this before, but road racing, they weren't my heroes. It was Speedway and grass track when I was growing up.
Oh, you had a belt of that, didn't you, Speedway?
Yeah, Speedway, yeah, when I was 15. But
so back to bricks.
So obviously I got into the Grand Prix scene very quickly when I got a road bike, and Kevin Swans was my hero of that era. It's funny, isn't it? Now I'm working with his crew chief. Weird how life turns out. And Kevin knows me quite well, and so on. It's weird how life turns out, eh? And I was the first person to ride his 93 winning bike here to get it ready for him to come and do a parade on since he won the championship.
That is class.
Boyhood dreams.
Oh, mate,
I love
yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Go on, Joe.
Nick H, the F900 Cup's a good lever. Would you like to see a TT or any big road race class where all the bikes are equal?
Hey, listen,
Ooh.
I've been putting so much
Ooh.
pressure on
I like that one.
BMW to get these bikes at the TT. For anyone makes serious to a certain degree, but you know, BMW UK were quite positive with it. But to have 40 bikes where you pick a key out of the hat, all prepared the same, would turn out the best TT rider.
Love it. Tony Rolls, that's a good one.
Not only, sorry mate, I forgot what your name is.
Nick.
Not only would it be Nick, sorry mate, would it be a good TT, but you could then have a little mini road racing championship, Northwest TT and Macau.
Love it. Tony Rolls, you have one tank of fuel left. What bike and what track?
Oh, Tony, what a question, lad.
It's good after
easy,
you putting me on the spot to pay me mortgage.
Easy. That would be Spa
Oh,
I'm with you.
Yeah.
because I've done it. It would be Spa with a full tank of gas on Kenny Roberts Jr.'s V4 500 from 1999.
Yeah, mega.
This
And
isn't
I
a
would
pick.
even take a bit of pipe and siphon some more fuel out of a car somewhere just to get some more laps.
Damn
So
right.
good.
Damn right. I'll tell you what, here's a question. It's not actually one of our patrons, but it's one of mine. Do you have any riders that you didn't want to race against?
Nope.
He was that rider.
Yeah.
He was that rider that no one wanted to go against. Simple as that. I love it.
I like this one as well. This is from Ian. I don't know your surname. What's the one machine that you haven't ridden or driven that's still on your bucket list?
Ian.
I pushed in 09 because I won everything for Honda that year. As in, I don't mean World Championship, obviously, but, you know, from World Endurance to British Championships to Superbike, Brands Hatch to TT, Northwest 200. I was desperate to ride the latest MotoGP bike, but unfortunately at that time, everything... You remember at the Valencia, after the last round of the year, it used to be like a big press event, and journos and other people, and it was kind of half penciled in for that, but it never happened. That got shit canned, so I never got to ride one. So, I mean, that's the ultimate, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the ultimate motorcycle. Yeah.
Here's another question.
Good question.
Dean Webster, if you were invited to take part in a celebrity boxing match, who would you like to fight because you'd batter them? Who would you least like to fight knowing you'd get battered? And never pineapple on a pizza. Tip top cheerio, Dean Webster.
Dean, go and wash your mouth out. Always pineapple on pizza. Always. Always. And Hawaiian to start with. Anyway, boxing. I'm not a fighter. I'm a lover, not a fighter. However, I've done a bit of sparring and stuff in years gone by. I'd have to fight the only one. There's only two good things come out of Wales, right? One of them's Tom Jones and the other one's Joe Kawasaki. I'd fight Kawasaki because he's unbeaten and I'd obviously love to beat him. Not a lot of chance. What was the other question?
Who would you least like to fight?
Michael Dunlop.
It would have to be... Nah, make it easy, all right. Boxer would have to be... Tyson. Gotta be. Biggest hit in heavyweight. Yeah.
Do you reckon that fight's bullshit? You know that
hit you from any angle, anywhere, so hard. No, just make that be.
You know the Mike Tyson.
That'd be concussion again.
Yeah, 100% it would be. But you know that Mike Tyson, who's the
Jake Paul.
Okay, I tell you what, as a sport, do you reckon that's gone down the shitter? Boxing because of these.
It's
YouTube
nothing.
elements?
Obviously, nothing like what it was.
No.
Still some good fights, but nothing like. I'm a massive fan. I've been lucky enough to meet many of my heroes, which is people like probably my biggest hero is Nigel Benn. Would fight anybody, anywhere, at any time, on the street or in the ring. What a hero! What a hero. But in that era, there's some incredible fighters. Incredible.
Do you think shit like this, Jake Paul and
so to answer your question,
Tyson one?
No, it's nothing like it was. But that's down to money, promotion and so on.
I just think it devalues the sport a little bit.
That's what
I think it does. It just takes the piss, doesn't it?
Yeah. There's still some really good fighters out there. You got to show some respect to some of the good guys that are still there. But it's certainly, in my opinion, not quite as strict and as let's say the belts probably can't. And not quite worth what they were.
Yeah.
Yeah. As a fan, anyway.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I tell you what, I feel like we're going to miss an opportunity here for the show. There's just so much to talk about. We didn't even get to... I tell you what, I must get this in. Outstanding Peter Hickman. What have they done to that Yamaha Super Twin over the winter? Did everyone watch that? I tell you what, right?
I watched him, right?
I couldn't believe that. That was like, he came out the blocks.
That's why I mentioned this to him. I watched him in practice and I stood just near the winners enclosure at the Northwest is in practice, and he come out of the start finish chicane right, left and onto the main road and pulled a massive wheelie down to the signal bay, and I thought, oh, he's done a bit of work on that. And then sure enough, in the races he was on the pace. He was obviously riding very well, but he didn't
have a significant...
He's going to be hard to beat at the TT in that class now. The pattern's very good, obviously, and Michael will be very strong on it, but it's not going to be Michael outriding everybody this year. It's going to be a race.
It's going to be a proper. But then you see, that's the thing about twin racing. It's like you've got to make it at the end.
Oh yeah,
you've got to make it at the end,
and that's with all of them because, as we all know, the TT is the biggest test.
100% over. 100% over.
On the TT note, so Simon from OMG Gorilla was good friends with Simon Andrews, and it's coming up to the 10 year.
It's been 10 years today, mate. While we're sitting here, it's been 10 years today since we lost Simon Andrews at the Northwest.
You can't believe that, can you?
No.
10 years.
Well, Simon from OMG's getting a big tattoo done on his forearm in memory of it. He was a childhood friend of Simon Andrews. Yeah. And it's a big fundraising. There's going to be a link to the GoFundMe page, and basically the money's then going to go into 3 different air ambulances, the Isle of Man Hyperbaric Chamber,
and the Joey Dunlop
Foundation. Yeah. I've personally had the support from the Simon Andrews Fund when I broke my back in 2017. It won't be carrying on. This is the last year, so this is the last big push to raise the money to put back in. So please click on the
Grace put the links up, and please put your money in. And he's an absolute tart, Simon. So he's he'll take it like an absolute bitch, like getting tattooed. So if anyone's met him and want to really contribute to his pain, this is an investment, 100% on that. But fair play, mate. Doing something like that for a friend, you've got to be doing these things, man. You've got to be doing these things. Yeah. But I tell you what, I think this.
Any more questions,
mate? I've got loads, and I feel sorry for Grace because she's going to edit this, put this out. We actually had a bit of a technical glitch, so fair play to Grace for covering that up, and fair play yet again, Steve Play, for taking the time to just listen to us too. So thank you so much, and we'll get to see you on the Rock. Yes, when do you go out?
I fly out next Saturday, week tomorrow. We're Friday now. The week tomorrow. Yeah, I fly out from Manchester. It's a big jaunt now, and it's over 2 weeks. I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, we've got arrive Saturday, get sorted, get settled. Sunday is rehearsal day with the TV side, and then straight into it Monday, first practice. So got my own camera this year, so I can go off in various different sites around the course to do a bit of recording, a bit of talking, and just to get that fast feel factor at different places around the island. Yeah, looking forward to it. but not quite looking forward to it as much
I tell you what,
as pineapple on pizza.
that's wrong. That's wrong. I tell you what, though, I'm glad you mentioned that because I think I'll hallucinate. You know, there's me tipping in or going. I swear to God, I saw Steve Plater just outside, a Greba Castle, and then what's going on here? You know what I mean? I thought I'm having a mild stroke, but I tell you what, exciting times ahead. We're obviously heading over to the TT. We're going to get some episodes done out there. Hopefully, Joe can make an appearance back out.
I'll see if I can.
Damn right, he's about to spend 100 quid on his last mortgage, so it's we'll probably never see Joe Akroyd again. Let's face it, these are the facts. 100% over. But I think it's time for the closing act. But this show would not be possible without our sponsors, OMG Racing. Obviously, they've got the merch, they've got the canvas prints, they've got everything. Please get yourself down to a BSB. And obviously, OMG, they own WTF, which they're running James Hillier at the TT. He's done the Northwest. He's set his personal best this year as well. He's got stock Fireblade and a Superbike Fireblade. So Hillier's another one that you can't write off.
And on your TT talk, Quick Shifter Coffee have done a TT special, haven't they? Blend.
Yeah, indeed. And
called 37.7.
And that's the only reason...
Which you're gagging
I
to
will
get.
be
You want some of this
taking
Quick
a
Shifter
bag.
Coffee, don't you?
Of beans.
Done. There you are. That's the payment sorted. I absolutely
What's that
love
red
it.
one?
Mate, we can only afford one
That's
at a time.
grand. I
You know what
need beans.
You need beans, for God's sake.
Try the red
man.
one.
Well, hold on,
What's the
is
red
that
one?
beans?
That
Is
is
that
the
beans?
Chasin the Racin
That's
blend.
the Chasin the blend.
Are they beans?
We're in. Beans.
We're in.
We're in, we're on, we're out. I love it. Absolutely brilliant. So, yes. Also, we've got Bennetts Bike Insurance. They've got the Bike Social app as well. You know,
Yeah.
I tell you what made me laugh is the auto renewal came through and I'm back on boards with Bennetts. So fantastic. You know what I mean? So for people like me, it's ideal that auto renewal because now I'm driving around legally. Thank you very much, Bennetts.
People like it's a miracle getting insured.
Mate, you're telling me. Fucking telling you. We interviewed Ian Locke. I'm thinking I'm like a perfect citizen after his childhood. I'm telling you that for now. Yeah, click back and watch that one, everyone, by the way. And obviously, JCT, Truck and Trailer Hire. And I'm going to put Joe on the spot here because he pronounced those acronyms for our episode sponsor.
WCS.
Nice, mate.
Performance
That's
parts.
it. There you are. So,
And hey, on the Bennetts thing as well, if you're a Bennetts customer, get yourself along to a BSB meeting with your... All you have to do is show your insurance certificate. You've got the pit perch, which is, you know, mega. You can go in pit lane there and witness everything. There's all the competitions for you to win laps in the safety car, pillion laps. Get involved in the Bennetts competitions online there.
James Ellison now on it, doing pillion laps.
Yeah, there you go.
Fair play.
I'll tell you
Winner.
what,
Are you going to do a few of them?
and also they're doing
Front or back, no.
and Bennetts are also doing the competitions for Holland Comps Open for all till Thruxton plus track days. So they've got the track day element as well.
Which
Busy
again,
people.
I was talking to a lad yesterday on that charity day. He said, I've never done a track day in my life. And he said, stupidly or not, I want to do it on my GS. And I said, you know what, if you go and do it on a Bennetts day, they're the most chilled out track days I've ever done. So if you're like a newbie to it, not just for newbies, they've got the fast group as well, but proper chilled out track days, I was dead impressed.
I am so glad you mentioned that because I've only done one. Me and Chrissy did one, went down, and there was a bloke on a GS.
Yeah.
He was getting the guards down, his knee down, and everything like that. Like, Nobly's on. He's came in and gone, nice day for a ride. I'm going, mate. Like, you know what?
Absolute hero.
You know when people come, got any tips? Not for you, son. I've got, mate, you just keep doing you, son.
Private elf.
Mate, I'm telling you now, it was phenomenal. And like, I've always kept meaning to give him a shout out. But obviously, all our patrons, you sign up, you get early access, you get to ask people like Steve Plater any questions you want, and we would be truly and utterly, well, I'm going to say it, would be fucked without you. So, absolutely great to have you on board. And yeah, Joe, thank you. Steve,
Thanks, guys.
Cheers,
Thank you.
mate. Thank you so much.
Thanks.